Welcome to Paradise Love and Veggies. I'm Samantha Janes. We've all had an issue with trying to find the right key for a lock, or having our key get stuck in a lock, or even having a padlock that the key breaks in it. Nothing is more frustrating. I'm here today at my friend Garen and his daughter Anya's shop. We're going to learn a little bit more about maintaining locks and how to make a purchase if you need to buy a new lock, and how the rekeying process plays into your purchase, or if that would even matter for the use that you're looking for. Well, thank you so much, Garen, for letting me come in today. I've been working with you for a couple years now, and I would have never guessed that there is actually a lot to know about locks. I thought that because during my childhood, and I did a lot of swapping out locks at my great-grandma's apartment building, I thought I was kind of the end-all be-all of locksmithery, and I've learned there's actually a lot to it, and especially depending on the quality of lock you're buying and how you maintain that lock, really plays into longevity. And there's also times where you just have a really bad location for a lock and it's going to come into weather or wetness or whatever. So I just thought it'd be interesting for you to talk to viewers a little bit about purchasing locks, how to maintain the locks that they have, and what to do if they have a bad weather spot for a lock, how they can maintain that and get it to last longer and not get locked out in the middle of the night. Where to start? Well, let's start with like home locks. So
Okay,
this one here.
That's commercial.
Okay, so this is commercial, and I have seen some of these on homes.
Everywhere.
They have kind of a more modern day kind of lock.
Yeah, commercial levers are pretty standard.
And this is called a commercial,
This is a commercial lever.
because of this part.
Yeah, it meets,
Okay.
it meets ADA requirements, the American Disabilities Act.
Oh, okay, okay.
Basically, they changed it so in around 1990 so that you had to have a handle that you could grip and would actually hold
Oh,
if you're having a hard time. So
Right,
if
okay.
you noticed gas stations, all
Right.
of them had to switch over to lever handles like on their bathrooms or entry doors.
well, and speaking of bathrooms, these are really easy to use
Yeah.
your elbow if you're trying to get out and not
Yeah.
touch your hand to the
Yeah.
handle itself.
So, yeah, in recent years, and I speak of within the last 25 years, the prevalence of lever handles on homes has gotten more and more common. Because people like to have them on like your front door, so if you're bringing in the groceries, just hit the lever with your knee and you're in.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, they're really good for that. There's good brands, bad brands. It all depends on what you're buying. And it's always good to know what you're buying. That's where we come in. So, getting back to commercial levers, they're, if you go around to the hospitals around, or hospital or medical clinics around here, you'll notice a lot of these on there. Most commercial buildings in the area, this is what we sell them.
Okay.
I've dealt with a lot of different manufacturers over the years. Arrow, I used to sell back in the early 1980s to the U.S. government.
Oh, okay.
Real common on military ships back then. Now they do totally different stuff, but we won't get into that.
Right,
So,
right.
But yeah, Arrow is a national brand. They've been around forever. Well, not forever, but anyway.
And would is this something that a person could, if they were a do-it-yourselfer?
No.
Would this, no, so this is a locksmith.
It's pretty much a locksmith
Okay.
type item.
Okay.
I try not to sell these to people that just want to put them like on their house garage, because there is certain things you have to do to make them fit the door correctly.
I see.
So that being said, if you get into residential grade locks, most of what you see like at the hardware stores is, for lack of a better way of saying it, the bottom of the barrel. With the exception of Schlage, they still do make a decent product. Their warranty is really good for the customer. The customer has to directly go back to Schlage on any
Okay.
kind of warranty claim, because they've got a lifetime warranty.
Oh, I see,
So,
I see.
but it's up to the customer to do that. They will not do it through a locksmith,
Right.
unfortunately. Most of the companies out there will. But,
Okay.
I do still sell a lot of Schlage commercially. I don't sell their residential grade products because every hardware store does. I can't
Right,
compete
right.
with the prices.
And I see here you have the classic home master lock.
Yeah.
And we've all heard of master. I mean, I
Yep.
don't think anyone would dispute that it's a really quality high quality product. Yeah, oh, well, I see, I always learn something.
Okay, in the residential grade locks, you have different stages of them. You've got grade 3 through grade 1, which is completely dissimilar from grade 3 to grade 1 in the commercial. So if you see a deadbolt, say at the hardware store, it says grade 1 on it, that's really neat.
Oh, okay,
But
now.
it says grade 1,
I
grade
need to-
1 being the best.
I
but-
learned something new again.
Yeah.
So there's 3 grades of locks.
Right,
And so grade 1 is the superior
that's the
lock
top end grade.
versus grade 3
Which
is,
yeah, the bottom end.
okay,
Master, this is their door hardware. They came out with it about 10 or 15 years ago.
okay.
They've done door hardware in the past. This is their newer range of it. Good quality product as far as, yeah, there we go. That's a B60 though.
Oh,
Good quality product. We've had very little problems with it over the last 10, 15 years. There are little inherent problems that happen because of doors, not necessarily the locks. If it's installed properly, it should last 10, 15, 20 years without any problems.
and would some of those problems be depending on the material of the door, if there was swelling, if there
Yeah.
was swelling within the door jamb, things
Right.
like that?
Yeah, the problems you have with doors is obviously what you stated, swelling. You know, in our environment here, we've got a lot of humidity, rain, then it dries out during the summer, so your door sits there and shrinks and swells and shrinks and swells. Well, if that happens, you got 2 screws in here.
Right.
Eventually, they start to work their way out, and then you have a lock that's flopping around the door.
And I've experienced that where they almost kind of get stripped out over time.
Yeah, this is actually, they move their way out of the door, because when
Okay.
you're turning the handle, if it's the least bit loose,
Right.
it's gonna turn that screw along with it. Even if it's a minute amount, it'll still turn it, and eventually you've got a lock, like I said, that's flopping around the door. It needs to be tightened down.
Okay.
Um,
Now I'm curious, just for viewers who are watching this, because I know now people are thinking, wait a minute, I need these grade 1 locks. So on the packaging, is it easily showed where it's the
It does.
grade or?
Yeah, it does, but there again, you're getting a grade, like in residential hardware, okay, like right here, you're getting a grade 1 lock,
Okay.
This is not, this is a grade 3.
Oh, okay.
This is what they say is a grade 1. If I were to take these 2 apart, there's not a heck of a lot of difference.
Okay.
There are certain attributes that Schlage does to this lock to make it a grade 3, according to the companies that do the grading. It's a third-party grading service, basically.
Oh, okay.
So they give it certain attributes like 1/4-inch bolts that hold it on the door, a hardened steel plate in the face, so you can't drill out the bolts, hardened steel pins and a half-moon shaped little piece in the
I see.
cylinder itself, so you
Okay.
can't drill it out. That being said, the body of the lock's still made out of pot metal, that's die-cast zinc. You know, it's a basic way of getting that grading, but still not providing a quality product.
So assumingly, if you were just going to be a do-it-yourselfer and you're going to the hardware store, whether it's Ace, Home Depot,
Yeah.
Lowe's,
Anyway.
probably gonna be a grade 3.
Yeah, even though they say it's grade 1, you're still getting a grade 3 product that's got
Okay.
grade 1 attributes. It's not fully, it's
All right, well,
not
let's,
there.
let's just assume that someone didn't have this knowledge and they bought their new lock set and they're excited and it's, you know, they got it installed. What can people do to preserve their lock and keep it working, you know, for a longer time? I mean, I'm guessing check the screws and in the back
Right.
and make sure that these are, you know, staying tight and flush. I mean, what are some other things that they can do to preserve the life of their lock?
Basically, yeah, that's the first thing, is make sure it stays tight on the door, make sure everything is straight. Because if it gets off center, if it's drooping, if one side's lower than the other, then you can cause friction on the inside of the lock on the moving parts.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
so if you notice, like, if you go to turn your key on your deadbolt and it's really hard to turn it back, that's more than likely an alignment problem, and it will
Oh,
cause
okay, so
problems.
just to show viewers, so he's saying that if you're turning it and then you go to turn it back, and we've all had that happen where it kind of gets jammed right here and you got to kind of do a shimmy shake, and then okay.
Okay, the other things that happen over time is the door will sag, and you go to extend your deadbolt, and bang, it stops right about there because it's hitting the frame.
Right.
So then it's real common to people to force it over.
Oh.
And if that happens, what you're doing is causing problems, breakage on the inside of the lock.
Oh, okay.
Same kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's basic stuff to know. If your door's out of alignment, if it's sagging, sagging doors usually can be fixed with new hinges.
Okay.
Very simple.
That's a simple fix.
Because hinges over time, especially the ones that were made in the last 20 years, are the materials they use are not what they used to be.
Right.
So they tend to sag. You know, they're not that great. As far as, you know, that's the first thing I check on a door. If they say the deadbolt won't go into the hole, is I check the hinges.
Oh, okay.
Because that's usually what's wrong. The
And is that a
doors.
service that a locksmith
Service?
would provide?
Yeah, we do actually provide that.
You do, okay.
Most of the time we can correct it by putting a longer screw into the frame just to pull the door back
Oh,
up.
I see,
Or
okay.
just tightening up the screws on the hinges.
Right,
You know,
okay,
so again, something that most people can do.
right,
You know, not a big deal.
okay, okay.
As far as lubricant, in the olden days,
Graphite?
we used to use a lot of graphite.
Okay,
right?
and that's kind of that powdery
Yeah,
stuff, right?
graphite's a powder, it's really dirty, you get it on your fingers, it doesn't want to go away.
Right.
It's kind of nasty stuff. Okay, that being said, most locks back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s were made out of brass.
Oh,
Graphite is absolutely great on brass. I still use it today on brass cylinders.
okay.
Okay, only brass.
The cylinder being the components
yeah.
inside the actual locking
Right here.
mechanism,
So
okay,
this one is brass.
okay,
So if I were to rekey this, I would use powdered graphite, a very tiny amount of it, not
Okay.
a lot.
okay. And
Graphite,
so that one's brass, so
Yeah.
tell me then what this is here then?
pot
This is
metal.
That's pot metal,
And for those who don't
Okay.
know what pot metal is the metal slag when you're producing steel. So you produce a big sheet of steel, and there's all this slag that falls off from all the sparks and everything, just
Oh.
this junk on the floor.
oh,
Yeah, they collect all that and then they make cylinders out of it.
oh, well, it's a
Yeah.
recycling
It's a
thing,
recycling
but-
thing, but it ain't a really good one.
Yeah, wow.
So brass
okay.
has always been a really good quality thing for lock cylinders because you do get a lot of wear over time. As your keys get worn, there's little things that can happen inside there that are not too great, so.
Now, let's say you have the slag base, or the
Great
mechanism.
one, yeah.
What would you use instead of graphite to keep that?
I use an
working?
oil-based in this area.
Oh, okay,
It's called Freol.
Freol,
Yeah, it's an oil-based
Okay.
lubricant. It will also get rid of dirt and stuff out of the lock.
oh, okay.
It's something you
And
have
is
to use.
this like an aerosol spray?
Yeah, just an aerosol
Okay.
spray. It sprays it and it stinks. But it does a good job and it is oil-based.
Okay,
Here, there's a lot of different lubricants, you know, silicone, WD-40, Triflow, which is Teflon, CRC, which uses, I believe, also a silicone type lubricant in it. They're all great, except when you're close to the seawater. Okay, and unfortunately, in this area, we're close to the seawater.
Yeah,
and-
Pacific
Yeah,
Northwest,
so
yeah.
I've experimented with all of them over the last 45 years, and we used this back in the 70s.
For like computer keyboards, you can use air to
Right.
kind of spray off. What could a person use if they had kind of maybe a dusty garage, or they were doing some sanding work or something? Could they use air to
Oh,
clean
yeah,
out the
you can
lock?
clean it off, yeah. I
Okay.
use electrical parts cleaner
Oh,
pretty heavily because it dries. So if
okay,
I've got to clean something out that's extremely dirty, I'll use that to clean it out because it'll strip everything off.
okay.
And then it dries out plain and you have no lubrication, so you've got to pretty much start all over. And yeah, you just use whatever type of lubricant is appropriate for the job.
Right.
Yeah, we've used a lot of different things inside locks, white lithium grease, axle grease, you know, all sorts of different things. You don't want to use a real heavy type of grease on any of your newer type of hardware because the parts are just not built for it.
Okay,
You know, they don't accept any really heavy. Schlage uses a kind of a medium weight grease on the internal mechanism of their commercial locks. But as far as residential, it's just got a very light type of oil on it.
okay. So let's talk a little bit about rekeying locks. I would assume, and we know I'm not always right, that you can rekey pretty much any residential lock, is that?
much, yeah.
Pretty much,
Mhm.
okay. Now what about, like, locks like this.
Okay, padlocks are
So-
a whole other thing.
Padlocks are different.
Yeah, padlocks, most people equate a padlock to, just a standard master, one of the little laminated ones that have been around since, I don't know, 1920s or so. And they say, okay, you gotta have a separate key for that. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. You can actually get a padlock that'll fit your house.
Oh,
And we sell lots of these. Good quality product. Avis I've been selling since I had my first shop back in 1981. We sold a lot of them. They're a German company. Good quality padlock all the way around. Weather resistant. They actually make weatherproof products,
oh.
like for boating and things like that.
And what would the difference, how do you weatherproof?
Stainless steel.
Oh, and
Yeah.
stainless steel exclusively?
Pretty
Or-
much, yeah. They make a
okay.
line of pretty much solid stainless steel. You lose some of the security features by going something like that. It's
Oh.
like solid brass. Brass is great, but you can cut it right off with a hacksaw. It's not a big
Oh,
deal.
I
Stainless
see.
steel, if it's a harder version, like one of the higher grades, it makes it difficult to cut, it still can be done.
What is
So-
what is the most theft-proof metal to use for locks?
Hardened steel.
A hardened
Yeah.
steel.
There's case hardened steel. Avis uses a 31-part alloy in their shackles, which is, it's got boron, it's got titanium, hardened steel, it's got all kinds of different things. They've never listed everything that's in it, but they're extremely hard to cut off. You can't do it with a hacksaw, can't do it with bolt cutters. You can do it with an angle saw, but it takes a while.
Well, it seems like that'd be worth the extra investment
Oh, yeah.
for someone who really wants real security. I know around here, there's been a lot of stories of people having their storage units broken into, and I would guess that's because they're using a inferior
Yeah, just a
caliber
cheap
of lock,
padlock,
just
yeah.
a cheap padlock.
Yeah.
Okay.
And price, yeah, that's another thing that is real important. If you look at a lock in the hardware store and you say, oh, there's a door lock, it's, oh gosh, $40. Well, there's one for 10, that'll work. Well, how badly do you want to secure your home?
Right.
I mean, do you want to secure it with a $10 lock that somebody can just walk up to and grab the handle, push down and pull it off and open the door?
Right.
I've done that. I was a little frustrated one day.
Yeah,
Yeah, just-
or get, have
Yeah,
an actual
just have-
lock that's gonna provide the security.
Yeah, to get something that will actually hold together over time and be somewhat secure. I mean, realistically, most of the time you can kick a door frame in or break it in. If they really want to get in, they're going to get in. So you do the best you can with with what's out there, and yes, don't go by price. Talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to hardware.
Right, now, what if someone had let's do two kind of case scenarios. Let's say that you have a, just regular door lock that is maybe under an area where you don't have the correct rain gutters or something where kind of rain and water is slashing on it and it's used a lot. Is there a difference of maintaining a lock that's used often versus like a garage where you're maybe not using it as much as far as moisture and that kind of thing, or?
Yeah, if you got a place, if you've got an area that's not covered, it's always good to think about maybe putting an awning up or something like that. Locks are really not made to resist, at least residential grade, to resist weather like you're talking about. If you've got say you're on Hood Canal and you've got a big pole barn and it's got a door that's facing south and it gets blasted by rain. Even if it's got an awning over the top, it's still getting blasted by rain all the time. Lock's gonna rot out. There's just nothing you can do about it. A long time ago, they used to make what was called a C-rated lock, which was made in such a way that it would not rust.
Okay.
That's why I sold a lot of them to the Navy back in the early 80s. They're really hard to find now, and they're really expensive. So, that being said, it's not going to be something that you're going to want to put on your whole house, or, I would just, in that instance, I would put on there the best that I can find, and every once in a while plan on replacing it if it's going to.
Right, or using something like this.
Most of your sprays
So-
won't prevent it.
They won't prevent, they
No.
just keep
They just
it
keep this stuff off the
operational.
top, yeah.
Okay,
Now,
okay.
you could put something like Tri-Flow over the top of it, to put a little bit of Teflon over the top of it to try to protect it a little bit. There's all kinds of different protectants. but eventually they all do go away. And as soon as they're gone, the rest starts in, so.
So it sounds, what I'm hearing is basically it's really about the quality of the product that you're purchasing in the first place.
Yep.
So someone buys a new home, we know there's so many expenses when you move into a new place and you want to get your own lock. And so sounds like cost-wise, the original investment is worth your
Oh,
dollars
definitely.
to call a locksmith and have them come out and actually fit you with a better quality lock that will
Right.
last through time versus getting something, doing it yourself, and then maybe not having it installed properly where you end up having functionality issues with
Yeah.
it.
The one thing I would stress in all that, if you are building a new home, put your hardware at the front
Oh.
rather than the end. In other words, when you're starting to figure out what you're gonna put on that house, buy your hardware first.
Okay.
Because 99% of the time, every house I've gone to in a custom, they're trying to put the hardware on at the last minute, and they don't want to.
And they've already picked out the expensive countertops.
Yeah, there's no money left.
Okay.
And they can't afford to do something that's gonna last. So if you're building a new home, get the hardware first.
Okay.
Because that's your security.
Right. Now, what about when you're getting a key made? Is there a difference? I know sometimes they have, like, you have this cute little rack here of
Yeah.
all these. Is there a big difference between having a key made with one of these, or is there a difference of the quality as far as the what do you call it? The template? What's the?
Oh, as far as keys go, we only deal with national brands that put out a quality product.
Okay.
Okay. That being said, this product is made by a company that's been dealing with locksmiths for years. They put out a good quality product all the way around. Any of the keys you see on our board, a lot of them are factory original keys, so that you're getting nickel silver or a good quality product as opposed to going to like a hardware store. Then you get a nickel plated key and you don't know what's underneath of it.
Okay.
It may be brass.
I see.
I've actually seen some aluminums floating around lately.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, so that was also something that happened a lot in the '70s. There was a company called Curtis that was selling aluminum key blanks. They were great because they were lightweight, but they also broke a lot. And
Right.
so-
Oh, there's nothing more frustrating than having your lock or your key actually break in the lock.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, dealing with a locksmith as opposed to a hardware store when you get keys made, because everybody equates keys to, oh, get it at the hardware store. Well, no, that's not true. Back in the olden days, again, let's go back there, the locksmith actually usually had his shop in a hardware store.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was real common to go into the hardware store and it's actually a locksmith working there.
Well, and I'm sure viewers have experienced this. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a hardware store to get a copy of the key and it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Or they don't have it at all.
Or they don't have it, or it doesn't work,
Right.
or it's a work, but it's the shimmy shake in and out, trying to jiggle it around and.
Right. That gets down to the first thing is you need to look at your keys and make sure the one you're having copied is an original key
Oh, okay,
for that lock, or it was made well and it works nice and smooth.
okay.
Always double check and make sure the key you're having copied works nice and smooth.
Oh, to start.
Right to start. We check our machines usually once a week to once every 2 weeks to make sure they're accurate. That, usually within 100,000ths of an inch, we get them really, really close.
That makes a lot of sense, because I know sometimes people will get a key made, it's like a key is on its last leg, and they're
Right.
like, oh shoot, I better get a copy of this before it breaks.
Right.
But that actually isn't doing you any favor.
Not
At
at
that
all.
point, you should probably just have it rekeyed.
Bring the lock in and we can
Okay.
figure out what the original key was by
Okay.
taking the lock apart
Okay,
and make a new key.
okay, that
And
makes a
just
lot of
start
sense.
it over from scratch, because most of the time, depending on the brand, we can take the lock apart and figure out the original key, because you don't get a lot of wear inside the lock unless the key was really bad and people were being really forceful with
Mhm.
it, so.
Okay.
So.
Well, awesome. Well, you gave a lot of really great information, and I'm sold. I mean, I've always been really happy with any work that you've done for me, and just having that security that when you leave with the key, it's going to work. When you're buying a lock, whether it's a I don't know where it went, there's a padlock somewhere here.
Oh, it's right here.
You know, whether you're buying a padlock that has the ability to be rekeyed and to not be cut so easily, that's why we would even bother with locks in the first place.
Right.
So,
Yep.
all right, well, thank you so much for the information. And as you guys have heard, don't cheat when it comes to buying a quality lock. You're better to spend a little bit more money in the beginning and get a better quality product, and then you won't have the hassles and you'll have more peace of mind. Thank you.
You bet.
'Cause I've got a thought